This is National 9 News with Peter Hitchener.
The legal action that could cripple country football. The government and opposition call in the experts to examine their election promises, and film star Winona Ryder found guilty of shoplifting. Good evening. Also tonight, the ladies come out to play on Oaks Day. Flowing frocks and heavenly hats, the order for fashions on the field. Every country football club in Victoria is now under threat after the team from Chiltern in northeast Victoria was forced out of existence by legal action. Chiltern can't cope with an $80,000 damages claim for an on-field assault, and the league has refused to help. Charles Slade reports.
In its proud 100-year history, Chiltern Football Club has produced 6 AFL players, including current stars Matthew and Nigel Lappin. The town of 1200 is stunned that their club has now been forced to disband by legal action.
What can be done? We're not a rich club. We haven't got the money to really fight it.
What are the kids at the town going to do? There's not much for them in town to do now.
2 years ago, Chiltern's Paul Hodgkin pleaded guilty to assaulting opponent Shane Wallers, breaking his jaw in 2 places during a game. Now Wallers is suing Hodgkin, the club and its coach for $80,000 because Hodgkin was a paid player. Like most country teams where these incidents are not unusual, Chiltern can't afford the claim or $50,000 to defend it. Its liability insurance doesn't cover assault, so the club has been forced to shut down. As sad as this is for the Chiltern Football Club, it's a potential calamity for country football everywhere. Chiltern is incensed that the Country Football League has done absolutely nothing to help them.
The VCFL have been disgraceful in their treatment of the Chiltern Football Club.
The league failed to return repeated calls today.
And the implications for all football clubs and all coaches and officials of football clubs are enormous. But that's a message we can't seem to get through.
Charles Slade, National 9 News.
In a bid to counter opposition claims of weak financial management, the Bracks government has engaged accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers to cost all its election promises. And Premier Steve Bracks has challenged the Liberals to put their pledges to the same test. David Broadbent has today's developments.
Launching his education policy in Narre Warren this morning, Premier Bracks declared his government would spend $180 million building 15 new schools in the southeastern growth areas of Melbourne.
Education is and will continue to be our #1 priority.
And while that money had already been allocated in the last budget, Mr Bracks and Treasurer John Brumby announced the world's largest financial services firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers, had been engaged to validate every government spending promise.
We're only promising what we can deliver, and we'll deliver what we promise.
Opposition leader Robert Doyle says it's a stunt which highlights Labor's weakness.
One would hope that if the Labor Party is going to have their policies costed, they'll do a little better than last time. And for instance, the Austin Hospital was costed at $155 million. Well, the cost is now $375 million.
He said his promises would also be audited, but refused to say by which company.
No, you don't have to take our word for it. You can have them audited, you can have them costed in any way you want.
But Police Minister Andre Hermar has seized upon a blunder in an opposition press release to claim that a Liberal government would actually reduce the number of policemen on the beat. Mr Doyle had earlier promised to hire retired police to handle paperwork, but handed out a press release declaring, "We will free up an additional 250 police on operational duties to take up administration."
And that for the first time we have a political party promising to take police officers off the streets and put them behind desks.
David Broadbent, National 9 News.
The National Australia Bank has recorded the industry's biggest ever profit, a staggering $3.37 billion. It was a dramatic lift on last year's results, up 62%. Peter Harvey with the details.
The result may have been record-breaking, but the Nationals' boss remained very matter-of-fact about it all.
It has been a pivotal year and a very active year, and our performance has been solid.
A key factor, investment in the booming housing market, a market Mr Shikuto believes will remain strong despite some predictions of bust.
All signs are that the unemployment rate will continue in the range between 6 and 6.5%, and that will ensure that the house prices do not collapse.
One sour note came from the bank union, claiming much of the Nationals' continuing success was based on slashing jobs and branches.
It's time for the National to reinvest in their people and reinvest in their customers.
We are adding staff to our branch network.
The day's other big financial news, the likely impact here of the US interest rates being cut 0.5%.
with the drought holding growth down. So essentially, it'll bring forward speculation that the next move in Australian interest rates is in fact down.
Whatever the Reserve Bank's going to do, it only has one more chance this year to do it, its regular meeting next month. After that, the people who decide our interest rates don't get together again until February. Peter Harvey, National 9 News.
The warmest day of spring and the country's top fillies drew a record crowd of $103,000 to Flemington today, each one dressed to kill. But as Wayne Dyer found out, there's some debate over whether the Oaks really is Ladies' Day after all.
There was no need to track to Flemington for a glimpse of fashion finery. The city was awash with colour and class as punters prepared for a big day out.
So what's your tip, platform 8 or platform 9?
Platform 8. It's an absolute certainty.
After learning what's worn under a Scotsman's kilt, thousands who've been keeping their Oaks attire secret proudly paraded outfits kept under wraps for months.
I bought it in Rome, and mine's a fabric-covered Aspartry toy top hat.
As gusting winds had many clutching their headwear, the most elaborate creations caught everyone's attention. But there were one or two who clearly don't frequent the major fashion houses.
$11.50 the whole lot.
Some didn't rely on what they were wearing to be noticed. As racegoers coped with the warmest day of spring and fortunes that ran hot and cold, one couple had reason to celebrate after the ultimate gamble.
I've just popped the question and she's replied with the affirmative.
Smiles too for Fashions on the Field winners Arabella Forge and Poppy Bokrinas.
While there's no public holiday, the Oaks draws almost as big a crowd as the Cup itself, and the reason is simple. The ladies regard this as their day out, while the men have exactly the same idea.
I've heard it's called Blokes Day.
Yeah, it's Lady Appreciation Day.
They all come because of us, I think.
Yes, and we know that.
Wayne Dyer, National 9 News.
And we'll have the rest of the Oaks Day highlights later in sport. It's been a day to celebrate for Kathy Freeman, with news her husband, Sandy Bodecker, has been given the all-clear after treatment for cancer. He's been undergoing therapy at the Peter MacCallum Institute since being diagnosed with throat cancer in May. Kathy issued a brief statement, leaving comment on her husband's recovery to her manager.
And they're very excited and, just trying to get on with their lives now and hopefully lead a normal life.
Actress Winona Ryder faces a month-long wait to learn her fate after a jury found her guilty of shoplifting. It's unlikely the star will be jailed, and Robert Penfold says the whole saga doesn't appear to have affected her career.
Like the true professional she is, Winona Ryder put on a magnificent ice-cool performance as the most embarrassing moment of her life was played out live on national television.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Winona Ryder, guilty of
shoplifting nearly $10,000 worth of designer goods and guilty of vandalism for damaging the clothes when she cut off the security tags. She'll be sentenced next month, but no one, including the prosecutors, want to see her behind bars.
We'll be asking for probation, community service.
Throughout the case, the prosecutor continued to stress to the jury, please don't get sidetracked. Facts are facts. She came, she stole, she left. End of story. And sadly for Winona Ryder, everything was captured on the store's security video cameras. Here, thinking no one's watching, she's videoed stuffing items like a $1,400 Yves Saint Laurent blouse and a rhinestone ponytail holder worth $220 into her bag. Few expect Ryder's acting career to suffer. She's reportedly had more offers for roles than ever since she went on her illegal shopping spree. In Beverly Hills, Robert Penfold, National 9 News.
When we return, a diabetic database to aid treatment and rallying round a family in need. 1,700 tertiary students had their exams cancelled this morning after a bomb scare at the exhibition building. Victoria University students were about halfway through this morning's papers in more than 30 subjects when the building was evacuated. It took an hour to declare the area safe, but it was decided to reschedule the tests on a date to be fixed, throwing a lot of holiday plans into chaos.
It's very unfair because we've studied heaps and we just want to get it over with.
A Supreme Court jury is assessing whether a young driver should be found guilty of manslaughter after a van he was towing hit and killed an 80-year-old woman as she was walking her dog. The rope Adrian Southwell was using snapped as he drove up a hill. Karen Huff was in court.
Edith May Bennett was walking her dog along a footpath near a Mitcham playground when she was hit by a Mitsubishi van her neighbour Adrian Southwell had been towing with his father's four-wheel drive. The 22-year-old allegedly used 6mm thick rope to tow the broken-down vehicle up a hill to his home. The rope snapped and the van rolled about 80 metres down the hill and struck Mrs Bennett. Jacqueline Speake was in the park with her 3 children who'd earlier patted the elderly widow's dog. She testified that Adrian Southwell yelled, "Look out," but the van was coming very quickly and Mrs Bennett had her back to it. The prosecution alleges Mr Southwell was grossly negligent by not having a driver in the van and by using a rope he admitted was inadequate. Asked about the strength of the rope, he replied, "I thought about it, but I didn't really have anything else to use, and I wasn't really intending, tow it, so I just towed it a short distance." Tests done after the accident show the breaking strain of the rope was 590 kilograms, while the weight of the van was almost double that. The defence says it was almost a freak of nature, and although Mr Southwell may have been a bit silly, he did not expect the accident to occur. Karen Huff, National 9 News.
A major advance in the management of diabetes has been unveiled after the development of a new computer program. As Belinda Byrne reports, people with the condition will now be able to control their blood sugar levels more easily.
Julie Coleman was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 20 years ago. She manages the condition with 5 injections of insulin a day and careful blood glucose monitoring.
And traditionally, like many other diabetics, have recorded that in a written diary.
But Julie will no longer have to write each reading into a logbook. A new web-based program now allows her to download her levels directly from the blood glucose meter to a computer.
It's a major breakthrough really in many ways. We hope that it'll encourage people to measure their blood sugar levels more frequently and to make better use of their readings to improve their control and thus prevent or delay the onset of long-term complications.
This new technology can also store information about daily diet, exercise and medication, allowing both the patient and the doctor to better manage the condition.
The benefits to me are the simple, easy to read graphs that it delivers, and you can see where you're maintaining your blood glucose levels or where there is a problem that it's occurring.
Julie then emails the information to her doctor.
Then I have a look at it and I email her back and make suggestions. In her case, it's adjusting her insulin dose. And both she and I are delighted with the end results.
Belinda Byrne, National 9 News.
In what's being interpreted as an endorsement of President Bush's hard line on terror, his Republican Party has now gained control of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Bush barnstormed his way around America in the final weeks of the campaign, visiting 35 states. Regaining control in the Senate allows the president to push through legislation his political opponents have been continually stalling. The results already claimed its first scalp. House Leader Richard Gephardt, a Democrat, resigning after his party's poor performance. A commuter plane has crashed on the outskirts of Luxembourg, killing 20 people. The aircraft was on a flight from Berlin when it came down in heavy fog. Amazingly, 2 people, including the pilot, survived. And Victoria Beckham's at the centre of a bizarre dispute with the English soccer club Peterborough United. It's been known as the Posh since 1923, and now club officials want to register the name as a trademark. But Beckham, the former pop star also known as Posh Spice, is opposing the move, claiming most people associate the nickname with her. Australia's unemployment rate fell to a 2-year low last month, with the national figure down to 6% from 6.2% in September. However, Victoria went against the general trend, lifting slightly from 5.8% to 5.9%. Finance, and after a day plagued by technical problems, the share market closed the day 1% lower, dragged down by investors unimpressed with today's NAB profit announcement. The other major banks and News Corporation were also weaker. The All Ordinaries Index dropped 34 points, our dollar stronger. A Carrum Downs primary school is rallying to help a family with 2 children who both have an eventually fatal form of muscular dystrophy. Outings for the McGarry family are almost impossible, but a new car would help overcome their daily challenges. Kelly Curtin met them.
Only 9 years old, and Matthew has had to come to terms with no longer being able to walk. His parents know it's a sign of the tough times ahead.
Just changed our whole life altogether. All
The plans for the future have all disappeared now.
Daniel, who's 7, also suffers from Duchenne muscular dystrophy, an illness which causes the body to gradually deteriorate.
They're just slowing down, their mobility's changing. Each day something's different.
Home help is a necessity to manage the morning routine.
Getting out of bed, helping with shower. I make lunches and stuff like that. And dress Daniel sometimes.
Just getting to school is an ordeal, let alone a family outing.
It's just too tiring and it stops you from doing it again because it's too much work. It's not an enjoyment, it's just hard work.
But the school community is determined to help ease the family's daily struggle and is raising money to purchase a van that can accommodate 2 electric wheelchairs.
It would be easier, it will help Mum a little bit more. It would be cool.
Please help us to make a difference and please help us get this family van so that this family can go out as a family whilst they still can.
Kelly Kirshen, National 9 News.
Now with sport, Tony Jones.
Thanks, Pete. Good evening. And coming up after the break tonight, our sizzling start to the Ashes series and a surprise leading lady in the Oaks. England has made a shocking start to the first test at the Gabba. Atrocious fielding, a costly injury and an Australian run spree. Matthew Hayden and Ricky Ponting scored centuries, helping the Aussies to a score of 2 for 362. Now that's nearing stumps on day one. Leith Mulligan reports.
Hoping to get off on a good note, Nasser Hussain won the toss and sent Australia in.
I want to give our young bowling attack best chance of a bit of grass on the wicket and get into their batting early.
Out to make sure it wouldn't happen, Justin Langer and Matthew Hayden. The pair put on 50 before Langer lucked out. Got him! Bent out of shape, England wanted a new ball which made no difference to Hayden, but wicket taker Simon Jones couldn't get it under control on the boundary.
Yes, he caught it, but it wasn't totally under control because he had to throw it back in.
Pushed on by Ponting, Hayden had Australia past 100 and his half-century before lunch. After the break, England hit a snag when Jones jagged a knee.
Oh, careful, and he's in trouble.
The replays didn't make the picture look any prettier. With ligament damage, his summer's over and he's out for the next 6 months. As for Ponting and Hayden, they couldn't be happier, heaving his way to his 10th ton and 4th for the year.
Full toss, both hands upstretched, he's found the gap.
Ponting took a crack at a half-century. Consecutive sixes saw to that and Australia to 200.
50 for Ricky Ponting.
England had its chance to have Hayden out, 1 for 233, a time for a backslap and for an old skipper to end his hike from Sydney to Brisbane. Hayden started his chase for 200, Ponting pocketed his 13th test ton. Hayden was given a hand drop by Michael Vaughan. He thanked his lucky stars and slipped through again for 150.
He's got it! Oh, he hasn't got it!
His big hitting kept coming, and while Ponting finished on 123, so did the 272-run stand. But Hayden is now closing in on 200. Leith Mulligan, National 9 News.
Well, as a jockey, Ron Quinton proved himself a champion. Now he's captured his first Group 1 event as a trainer. Quinton's Bullabor Gazy outclassed a talented field to win the Crown Oaks at Flemington. Here's Anthony Mithen.
It was Ladies' Day, this filly making sure everyone knew who was boss. The best equine females, though, perfectly behaved ahead of the Group 1 Oaks. Macedon Lady relaxed and ready, but could she stay?
Bullabor Gazy's giving plenty. Bullabor Gazy's hanging on. Bullabor Gazy has won the Oaks.
Bullabor Gazy strong at the finish, giving former jockey turned trainer Ron Quinton the greatest thrill of his career.
Yeah, I thought Lash was going to get her for a couple of strides, but this Chris Muntz, he's a great distance jockey, isn't he?
Muntz riding his second Group 1 win in Melbourne, the other the 1998 Melbourne Cup on Jezebel.
They go all right, don't they, these Group 1s, eh?
Bullabor Gazy paying $15, $30 and $4 from Lash, $2, and George Hanlon's Antique. In the Emirates Classic, Choisir, which refused to run straight on Saturday and lost on protest, left the erratic behaviour to others.
Felballon Choisir! Felballon Choisir! Oh, Felballon ran out badly! Choisir wins it!
Choisir giving something back to punters. Falvalon paying $3, no dividend for Belle de Jour. The daily double for the numbers 9 and 16 paid $266. The quaddie a handy $5,500. And the Gay Waterhouse inquiry into whether she gave false evidence to stewards has been deferred until next Thursday. Anthony Mithen, National 9 News.
And that's sport for tonight, Pete.
Thanks, Tony. Now, Wednesday, Tatts Lotto, no correct entry. So, Division 1 jackpots. Second division is worth $3,300. Division 3, $843.55. Fourth division, $28.85. And fifth, $14.55. Rob Gell's along next with the weather, and Nora winging it for her comrades in arms.
Tonight's weather report is proudly brought to you by Soke. 97% fat-free real potato chips. Really, it's okay.
Good evening. As advertised, warm and sunny today. The cool change is still coming, although it's a bit delayed. The high moved into the Tasman Sea as expected, and that took the wind to this northerly on the western flank of the high. Cold fronts well down to the south, and they're weakening. Just a little bit of high cloud at times today, and these fronts are weakening. They will give us the cool change, but very little, if any, rain. In fact, no rain in the foreseeable future. Temperatures, of course, then well above average right through the state, from the mid-20s up to the mid-30s in the north. A bit milder here across the ranges. The best today, a 35 in the Wimmera at Horsham. With the wind from inland, temperatures in the metropolitan area were into the 30s, where that same northerly wind came across the water to the peninsula. They stayed in the 20s. In the city, 12.2 at 10 to 5 the low, to 32.8 at 4:05 as forecast, and currently still 32. The cold fronts, as I say, are weakening. They will move through the south overnight and bring in a cooler westerly wind. The high will stay to the west of us for the weekend, so we'll maintain that slightly mild onshore breeze until Monday, when this next high slips through to the east, and it'll warm up early next week. Not much rain anywhere tomorrow. The cold front will bring some windy weather into Hobart, with just a shower or two, and typically some storms inland of Darwin. Other centres fine tomorrow. The strong wind warning for the northerly continues for all coastal waters, including the bays tonight, and also there's extreme fire danger in the Mallee and Wimmera for tonight ahead of this change, which is really just going to introduce a little bit of cloud in the southern part of the state as it comes through. A bit of a change. Tomorrow there might be just one or two isolated showers across the coast, and some morning cloud as well, but basically fine right through, and quite warm inland. The change will have little effect there. It will be milder near the coast. Temperatures in the metropolitan area will be cooler tomorrow, back to the mid-20s. For Melbourne, some early cloud, but clearing to a fine and mostly sunny day. The westerly will stay for a long part of the day. A bit of a sea breeze pushing through in the afternoon. Down to 13 by morning, but it's going to stay pretty warm tonight ahead of that westerly, and a more comfortable 26 tomorrow. Pollen levels were high today. They go back to moderate tomorrow. Sunset goes back to 8 o'clock now. Now, 7 days look like this. No joy in the rainfall department. In fact, fine weather now right through the weekend with mid-20s temperatures. Then Monday, Tuesday, things start to warm up again with northerlies. A change later on Tuesday. Hopefully a few good showers there, but in fact clearing pretty smartly on Wednesday and Thursday. The dry continues, Peter.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Now, 61 years ago, Australia was at war, and Nora Oakley answered the call, becoming one of the first to join the newly established Women's Auxiliary Air Force. She served her country for 4 years during the dark days of World War II, and today relived her experiences at the RAAF Museum, Point Cook. The 1946 Harvard aircraft will be one of 4 taking part in a Remembrance Day flypast next Monday, honouring the work of the 27,000 women who joined up. A special memorial will also be unveiled at the Austin and Repatriation Hospital as a permanent reminder of the sacrifices they made for freedom. That's the news for now. Thanks for watching, and good night.
This has been a National 9 News presentation.